morning, everyone. Excellencies, Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes and Professor Fernando Reis from Federal University of Minas. Excellencies, Vice Rector of Academic Affairs, Professor Rahmat Budiman, Dr. Mete Istianda, Dean of the Faculty of Social Science and Political Sciences of Universitas Terbuka, lecturers and students, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan. Good morning and a very warm welcome to the visiting lecture event today on Thursday, 25th June 2026 with a theme, Forging a Collective Strategy to Address the Emerging Power Trap, Brazil, Indonesia, and the BRICS grouping. This visiting lecture event is proudly presented by the Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences of Universitas Terbuka. My name is Sita, and it is a pleasure to be your host on this beautiful morning. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin our beautiful occasion, let us rise for the national anthem of Indonesia, followed by the hymn of Universitas Terbuka.
Globalmu
have a seat. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear the first remarks from Dr. Meita Istianda, Dean of the Faculty of Law, Social, and Political Sciences of Universitas Terbuka.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning to you all. The Honorable Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Universitas Terbuka, our distinguished guest from UFMG, Brazil, Professor Dawisson, Lopes, and Professor Fernando, dear colleagues, fellow lecturers, beloved students, and all participants joining us today, both here in the room and online. It is a true honor to welcome you to this international visiting lecture on behalf of the Faculty of Law, Social Sciences, and Political Sciences. I extend our warmest welcome to our guests from Brazil. Selamat datang. Thank you for coming to share your time, your thoughts, and your friendship with us. We are delighted to host Professor Dawisson, who will speak on a topic that speaks to our terms, forging a collective strategy to address the emerging power trap, Brazil, Indonesia, and the BRICS grouping. We are equally glad to welcome Professor Fernando, whose presence in our discussion reflects a shared hope for meaningful research collaboration in the year ahead. We met at interesting moment in history. Brazil and Indonesia are no longer simply part of the global order. They are helping to shape it as fellow voices of the global South. Our two nations share common wish, development that includes everyone, cooperation built on respect, and a fairer, more balanced world. Forums such as the BRICS grouping give that wish a state, even as they bring new and difficult questions of their own. These questions are not easy, and that is exactly why they matter. This is where universities do their finest work, not by offering quick answers, but by asking honest questions, sharing knowledge freely, and bridging thoughtful people together across borders. A lecture like today's remind us that ideas, much like friendship, grow stronger when they are shared. Our program today carries that spirit into practice. This morning, we had a focused discussion to explore joint research, academic exchange, and closer ties between Universitas Terbuka and UFMG. This public lecture now opens that conversation to all of you. It is my sincere hope that what begins here today will not end here, but grow into a lasting partnership between our universities and between Indonesia and Brazil. To our students in particular, this is a rare gift. Listen well, think freely, and ask boldly. It is not every day that the words come to our classroom, so make the most of it. Allow me to close with my heartfelt thanks to Professor Dawisson and Professor Fernando for their generosity and scholarship, to the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs for the steady support and encouragement, and to every colleague and staff member whose hard work brought this day to life. And to all of you here and online, thank you for being part of it. I wish us all a warm and inspired lecture. May this be the first of my good things to come. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you. Muito obrigado. Terima kasih.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mehta. Ladies and gentlemen, to open this event, let's hear a welcoming speech from the Vice Rector for Academic Affairs, Professor Rahmat Budiman, PhD.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk kita semua. Salam kebajikan, rahayu. Selamat pagi, Om Dia. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is my great honor to welcome and acknowledge the presence of Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes from the Universidade Federal de Minas, Gerais, Brazil, and Professor Fernando Embrace, Vice Provost for Research at the Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais, Ibu Dekan, the Deans of Faculty of Law, Social and Political Sciences, Ibu Dr. Mehta Isianda, and my colleagues, researchers, including our students presenting through online Zoom. On behalf of the Rector of Universitas Terbuka and the entire academic community at Universitas Terbuka, we call this UT. I think we pronounce the alphabet but the same, UT. T is in Portuguese is T, right? A, B, C. Yeah, we also have that kind of person pronunciation. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, E, J, and others. And I would like to extend my warmest welcome to our distinguished colleagues from the Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais, Brazil. Your presence here enrich this forum and reinforce our shared commitment to advancing academic excellence through international collaboration. Today's theme, forging a collective strategy to address the emerging power trap, Brazil, Indonesia, and BRICS group, reminds us that higher education must do more than interpret global change. It must help shape it. Through research, dialogue, and innovation, universities have the responsibility to contribute meaningful solutions to an increasingly interconnected world. For UT, internationalization is not merely about building partnerships, it is about creating lasting intellectual bridges that foster knowledge exchange, collaborative research, academic mobility, and mutual growth. We hope this program will inspire enduring cooperation between Universitas Terbuka and the Universidade Federal de Minas Gerais. This morning I talked to some of our colleagues that I am expecting that one day there will be delegates from Universitas Terbuka visiting your university and giving a lecture to your students. For your information that we provide a significant amount of funding to our UIT for some certain departments up to 28,000 US dollars. So I think it will be enough for you to travel from Indonesia to Brazil. And I believe that we will learn a lot from our colleagues coming to Sasabukan today. To our students watching us through a virtual meeting, embrace this occasion with curiosity and critical thinking. The conversation you engage today may become the ideas and collaboration that define tomorrow. For your information that we have signed an MOU with 3 universities from Brazil. University of Unisesuma University, Juni. Yeah, we have, I think we can follow up our meeting today with the MOU or MOU, so we can create more impactful collaboration with our universities. Finally, once again, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to the organizing committee, our distinguished speakers, partners, and all participants. May today gathering mark the beginning of stronger, more impactful, and sustainable academic partnership for the benefit of our global community. By saying Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, I have the honor on behalf of Rector Universitas Terbuka to officially open this international visiting lecture of the Faculty of Law, Social Sciences, Political Sciences of the Universidade. Thank you. Obrigado. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Professor Rahmat, please remain at the front because we are going to take a photo, group photo together. We also invite Professor Reis and Professor Dawisson to come to the front to take a group photo. Bu Meta dan Bu Wiwit. Okay, is it okay? Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile at the camera. Okay, Professor, would you mind to give the UTC? UT. Okay, UT. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. Okay. Oh, the spirit pose. Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you. Okay. Lecturers, students, ladies and gentlemen, we will now continue to the public lecture session with Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes. This discussion will be led by Mr. Daniel Pasaribu. He is a lecturer at the Political Department and his expertise includes political sciences and ASEAN studies. Mr. Daniel, I will now give the time to you to lead the discussion.
Thank you, Ibu Sita. Good morning, everyone. It is my pleasure to serve as a moderator for today's general lecture. Ladies and gentlemen, over the past few decades, the global balance of power has gradually shifted, with the emerging economies such as Brazil, Russia, China, India, South Africa, and Indonesia. As these countries gain greater economic and political influence, they also face new challenges in translating their growth economy and translating their growth contributions and leadership in global governance. In response to these challenges, BRICS has emerged as an important platform for cooperations among emerging powers, promoting a more inclusive and multipolar international order. Against this backdrop, today's general lectures entitled Forging a Collective Strategy to Address the Emerging Power Trap, Brazil, Indonesia, and the BRICS grouping, provides a timely opportunity to reflect on how emerging countries can work together to address common challenges, strengthen their global positions, and contribute to shaping the future of international cooperations and governance. So, before we begin, I would like to share a few housekeeping notes to ensure that our sessions run smoothly. We would like to ask for the online participants because this general lecture is also attended on site and virtually from different locations. So I would like to ask kindly online participants to keep microphone muted throughout the sessions. Second, the online participant can ask the questions through the chat box and by using the raise hand feature. Ladies and gentlemen, it is now my great honor to introduce our distinguished speaker, Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes. Allow me to briefly share some highlights of his professional background. Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes is Professor of International and Cooperative Politics at the Federal University of Minas Gerais. Correct me if I'm wrong how to pronounce Gerais. UFMG, and a research fellow of the National Council for Technological and Scientific Development in Brazil. He is currently serving as a UFMG Dean for Institutional Governance. He held the position of the Deputy Dean for International Affairs at UFMG from 2018 to 2022. With a prolific record, Professor Belém Lopes has authored or edited 12 books and numerous peer-reviewed articles covering international political theory, international institutions, Latin American politics, and Brazilian foreign policy. His extensive experience includes roles such as visiting researcher in Hamburg, Germany in 2013, visiting professor in Mons, Belgium in 2016, as USI scholar on US foreign policy in Delaware, United States of America to 2021, and visiting academic at the University of Oxford's Latin American Center, United Kingdom from 2022 to 2023. He actively contributes to international and national media outlets. Professor Belém Lopes has been invited to give lecture by 10 national governments and has presented or published his work in, I think, more than 35 different countries. Today, we are privileged to learn from his insight on challenges and opportunities facing emerging powers, particularly in the context of Brazil, Indonesia, and BRICS grouping. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes. Professor, please come to the front. Okay, it's better. Okay. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the title of for today's general lecture is "Forging a Collective Strategy to Address the Emerging Power Trap: Brazil, Indonesia, and the BRICS grouping." Okay, good. Professor,
Good morning.
the floor is yours.
Good morning, you all. Such an honor to stand before you this morning in beautiful Jakarta and to address this important topic connecting our two countries, Indonesia and Brazil. I'm so grateful to my dear colleague Daniel for his kind words. I don't know if I deserve all this kindness and beautiful words. In any way, I'm grateful to him and to each one of you taking a seat and having us at Universidade Terbuka this morning. As my host has already mentioned before, the topic of this conversation we are now having is one that has gained a lot of importance lately. There's no way to disregard the roles that big emerging countries like Indonesia and Brazil play today. One cannot dismiss our countries. They are too big too important not to be noted. So this talk I'm giving today will depart from this premise. Our countries are too big to fail, too big to be disregarded, too big not to be considered as main engines for the world order. And I'm not speaking of the future world order. Speaking of now, our countries are already too much important to be neglected. They should not be. But the topic of this conversation revolves around one of the concepts I've been dealing with lately, which is the idea of there being an emerging power trap. And what does it mean? Basically, and connecting this conversation to other conversations we've had before, this morning with some of my Indonesian colleagues, there's this belief on the part of major powers, especially from the West, that they can keep us from achieving the status of great powers. In the end of the day, I have the impression that we fight many barriers in order to climb up the ladder of international relations. Individually taken, our countries, both Brazil and Indonesia, sometimes have failed to fight these forces that keep thank you very much. I was so much looking forward to it. Very kind of you. So as I was saying, many times our two countries, Brazil and Indonesia, have failed to overcome these hurdles, these barriers posed by countries with an interest in keeping us away. So the emerging power trap has to do with this systematic attempt to let countries like Brazil and Indonesia out of the negotiating table, out of the decision-making room, out of the high table, as they say in the United Kingdom. Huh? But it's time to break free, to break up with this tendency. And this is what my talk today is all about. We have to find ways to resist and to move ahead, to move forward with our own agendas. We cannot buy the agendas of other countries in the world as if they were ours, because they are not. We represent our own constituencies. We represent literally hundreds of millions of people with very special needs. We need to cater to them. Our ultimate responsibility is to represent our populations. So it is important, first and foremost, So it is important, I think, to identify where our interests actually lie. So for both Brazil and Indonesia, I believe there's a very special place we are bound for, as we have the credentials to lead the world. As I said before, not in the future, now, at this moment. So this presentation, I'm afraid now it's working. So this is the idea I was exploring in my introductory remarks. Even if a country is rich, big, powerful by any account, there's no guarantee that this country will have a say, will have any degree of influence in world affairs. It has to be conquered. We have to win this kind of political space. It's not a given. It has to be constructed by our nations. So this is our roadmap for the presentation. It's a four-pronged presentation, fourfold. First, I will explain in some more detail the idea of the emergent power trap. Then I'll give examples from my homeland, Brazil. Then I'll try to draw some connections with Indonesia. And please, if I'm so wrong, correct me, but I'll try to explore some examples from Indonesia that bear resemblance with the case of Brazil. And finally, I'll come up with the BRICS solution, as I see the BRICS grouping today. It's a good collective solution to bypass the emergent power trap. So this is the plan for the presentation. Now, sorry for this. This is one of the premises of this concept. Nothing will be given to countries from the global south. Whenever an emerging nation is emerging, it will almost automatically trigger reactions from established powers. Because as you know, power is a relational concept. So it's not an absolute concept. You gather, or one gathers power relatively to other units, other countries, other nations. So from a systemic perspective, when a country rises, this is always a source of disturbance for the international system. This is why one should not expect that there should be such a thing as a peaceful emergence. We have heard of it, right? When many IR scholars, international relations scholars, when they speak of China, there's a tendency to ascribe to China this idea of a peaceful emergence. Come on. I don't buy it. They struggle on a daily basis in many different ways, like anybody else does, like any other country does. There's no such a thing as peaceful emergence. This is one of the premises of this presentation. But how do countries, established countries, major powers, mostly Western powers, how do they prevent us from reaching the status of major powers, of great powers? Rarely by means of war. There is an invisible mechanism which is the byproduct of a host of initiatives, diplomatic and non-diplomatic. The point is, established nations, they don't need to wage wars to keep us from reaching the status of major powers. There are other ways, less costly ways, and very effective ones. Symbolic, institutional, financial. You don't have to go to war in order to prevent Brazil, Indonesia, and the like to reach a better condition, a better position in the global arena, in the global stage. Historically, there have been many examples, and I will now focus on the case of Brazil. But before addressing my country, I'll just exemplify with a very important agenda: nuclear politics. This is possibly the one issue area where this tragedy is most visible. For our nations, for emerging nations, it's never been permitted to carry out our nuclear programs to the stage in which we would be able to develop nuclear armaments. You know that, right? There is a treaty of non-proliferation, according to which just 5 countries in the world, namely the United States, Russia, China, France, and the United Kingdom, only they would be allowed to develop their nuclear arsenals, to develop, to grow, to expand their nuclear arsenals. For the rest of the world, for all other 190 nations in the world, it's simply forbidden. And why? Well, established powers will always claim that it takes a lot of responsibility to play the role of gatekeepers. And I mean, just the big dogs, just the big ones should be allowed to keep this kind of weapon. Let us assume they are right, just for the sake of reasoning. Well, since the entry into force of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, you know there has been a multiplication of countries that have acceded to nuclear weapons. Today, India, Pakistan, North Korea, and Israel have their own nuclear arsenals. They have not respected international law. They refused to comply, to abide by the rules. And what happened to these countries? They have been rewarded. They haven't been punished. India now is seen as a strategic ally of the United States. Israel, well, Israel is being treated with a lot of respect by the United States, UK, France. So my point is, the whole international system is based on power politics, not on institutional force, not on legality, not on morality. It's all about power politics. This reasoning is applicable to other domains of international relations as well. So I could give more and more examples and spend the whole morning here providing you with cases that show, that express the lack of consistency of the international law system. But my impression is that at the end of the day, we are kind of alone. We have to find means, to find ways to survive in this wild international scenario. So let us remember the case of Brazil. As you know, I don't know if all of you are familiar with Brazil. Brazil is the largest nation in South America. Alone, Brazil accounts for half of the territory, the population, and the economy of South America, 210 million people. So Brazil is representative of the region in a sense. As they like to say, the diplomatic academy in Brazil likes to say boastfully about my country, if there is one natural candidate to ever become a UN Security Council permanent member in South America, this one is Brazil. It's the only possible candidate, given the scale, given the magnitude of the country. Well, back in the 1980s, Brazil has tried to create its own informatics sector. So way before the semiconductors industry, way before the emergence of AI, Brazil was at the forefront, in the vanguard, trying to develop its own computing ecosystem. Even if Brazil may have chosen the wrong tools, the wrong instruments to develop its own industry, because Brazil has decided to go autarkic, to close the country, the borders, in order to protect it, the local industry. To avoid that, foreign competitors would outpace Brazilian enterprises, Brazilian products. So even if the formula developed by Brazil was not maybe the most effective one, Brazil was exposed to harsh punishment for trying to develop its own informatics industry. And guess who was behind sanctions? Guess who was pointing the finger against Brazil and telling we were protectionists? The United States, as it always happens. We were having a conversation earlier today on the ability of the BRICS grouping to bypass the West. And the question was posed more or less like this: do you believe that do you believe that the West will let us grow bigger and let us develop our own economies and military capabilities and the like? Of course not. They never do. They never let us go ahead because, as I said before, and this is a theoretical premise, power is always relational. They know it. They have that clear. But it falls within our responsibility to create pathways and not to succumb, not to fall. It falls within our responsibility to create alternatives, strategies. Okay? So in the case of Brazil, we have tried hard, but in the end we failed. There would be other examples. For instance, our automotive industry has also fallen short of what would be needed to move forward, to go ahead. And always we've faced resistance from major Western powers. On top of it, please take into account that the US is close, geographically speaking. So they wield a lot of pressure. They are just around the corner. They are our next door neighbor. They're in the north. We're in the south, but we share the same continent. We share the American hemisphere, as they say. So it's never easy to resist the US pressure. And please don't get me wrong. This is no victimism. I don't want to sound like, the underdog. Absolutely not. Not my intention. What I want to say, what I want to tell you is that destiny is in our hands, our own hands. We should diagnose, understand what is at stake, and find ways to resist. I guess things are changing already. And let me now give you a glass half full account. From where I sit, I see positive changes on the horizon. I'll just provide you with a few examples, more optimistic examples now. When it comes to vaccines, Brazil had to strike deals with the Chinese in order to have access to the first shots, the first doses in the country. Otherwise, vaccines from the US, from the UK, would not be available in the beginning of the vaccination process. So Brazil has decided to diversify, to run after other options, to connect directly with China. And not just China, India as well. And not just China and India, Russia as well. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we have taken this decision not to rely exclusively on the US and European nations. Regarding the war in Ukraine, Brazil has indeed condemned the invasion of Ukraine. It goes against international law. A country like Brazil should never be in agreement with Russia's move. And Brazil has said it, has stated it, loud and clear. This is wrong. Still, we don't agree with the conduct proposed by Western powers, with double standards, with the way they have, on the one hand, criticized and imposed sanctions on Russia, and on the other hand, turned a blind eye to Israel when Israel put into action its military operations in Gaza. Double standards, hypocrisy. So Brazil believes we, the country, we should decide whether or not to impose sanctions. And we have decided not to. And I'll tell you why. Professor Hayes was, earlier today, he was showcasing some of our most powerful research work, or a sample of our research work at UFMG, and one of the topics he brought up was the development of new fertilizers. Brazil is not self-sufficient in fertilizers. We desperately need fertilizers coming from Russia and Belarus, because Brazil is a huge commodity exporter. If we don't sell our grains, soybeans, to the world, we'll have problems with our national accounts, with our economy. We won't pay the bills. We need to export our grains, our crops. But for our crops to grow, we need to bring fertilizers from Russia, from Belarus. Should we follow the route suggested by Western nations, we would inflict to ourselves punishment. So you see? So, in order to signal virtue, in order to prove the world that we are good kids, good citizens, good guys, we would impose on our own population the plight, the cost of a war that is not ours in the end. It's a European war. So you see the difference in terms of attitude. Brazil did not buy the Western agenda this time. The country reserves to itself the right to criticize, but doesn't buy the whole package. Doesn't buy the whole package, the whole Western package. It belongs to Brazil, the choice, the decision to embrace or not the Western formula or the Western decision. And this has been important for Brazil's self-esteem as a nation. So when it comes to the topic of Gaza, and I know this is a very dear topic to you guys from Indonesia, Indonesians have been deeply touched and involved with the matter. So the Brazilian president has gone as far as to affirm that what was taking place in Indonesia was of a genocidal nature, was comparable to a genocide. He's been criticized domestically, internationally, but he's maintained this discourse, this foreign policy strand of opinion. And no matter if you agree with him or not, again, it's been a demonstration of Brazil's assertiveness, of Brazil's capacity to stick to its own values and diplomatic ideals. I mean, even if you disagree with the legal definition, even if you claim that genocide is not exactly this kind of, doesn't matter. All right. I mean, this morning, this is not my topic. Politically speaking, it was a good demonstration of Brazil's ability to remain firm and not to bow. Historically, we have bowed many times. We have accepted the prescriptions of other countries. So this is a good sign in my view. So in the case of Indonesia, and not just Indonesia, I'd say Thailand, Malaysia, there have been efforts on the part of the U.S. to keep Southeast Asian nations from developing their own technological parks, their high-tech industries as well. And those U.S. efforts date back to the 1980s. So more or less at the same time Brazil was being targeted by the U.S., ASEAN countries were too. Same dynamics. It's impressive. When you go to the books, when you go to textbooks, you find the same operating causal mechanism. The U.S. and Western countries, European nations, trying to delay, if not to prevent our nations from reaching the most advanced stages of technological development. And they have done so by means of diplomatic defamation, institutional pressure, side payments. So some of the leaders of our nations have been bribed not to go ahead. In the case of Brazil, and for Brazil not to develop in its own nuclear program until the latest stages, our armed forces have been convinced by the U.S. not to go ahead. So there are many different tools. Rarely, as I said before, war is one of these means. There are other mechanisms through which countries from the global south are kept away. Okay? So basically, the idea behind this presentation is everywhere in the world, or everywhere in the global south, across Latin America, Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, Southeast Asia, even Northeast Asia, South Pacific Islands, anywhere across the global south, the same mechanism is to be found. Again, I don't want to sound like a victim. I just want to identify the causal mechanism. In a way, it's legitimate for established nations, for established powers, if they don't want other countries to join the gang, to join the group. It's understandable. But on the other hand, it's up to us to find ways to leverage, to balance, to tie the match. I'd say the BRICS grouping is, up to this moment, the most promising formula we have come up with, the countries from the global south. We have tried many other initiatives before. Indonesia has a lot to teach about the efforts from the global south from earlier generations. The Bandung generation is possibly one of the most successful examples of global southern initiatives. There was also the G77 and other ideas developed over the years. But still, it seems to me that we always fail in terms of agency. We lacked agency in the end of the day. It was purely symbolic. A country like Brazil, for instance, would never join the non-aligned movement. Did you know this? We have been all the way during the Cold War under the US umbrella. We dare not to leave this comfortable zone. Brazil has always been aligned to the US. And one could give numbers to prove this point. So mind you, back in the 1960s, when Brazil was governed by a left-wing president, João Goulart, the early 1960s, even at that time, being governed by a left-winger, Brazil would still converge with the US at a 80% rate at the United Nations General Assembly. Or in other words, for every 5 resolutions passed at the UN General Assembly, in 4 of them we would vote exactly like the United States of America. Today, the levels of convergence, even if the president at the presidential office, is seen as a right-winger, I'll just take one name, Fernando Collor de Mello, who was a very pro-US president in the early 1990s in Brazil. But his level of convergence with the US has dropped to 25 to 30%. So do you understand this point? I mean, Brazil has changed from a structural point of view. it cannot be explained along partisan lines or simply, political orientation. It's not about this. The country has developed its own strategies. And now Brazil is flexing its muscles, has become stronger, has a stronger economy, stronger institutions, more clearly defined political goals. All of this leading to resistance, to the pursuit of an autonomous foreign policy. I claim that Indonesia has followed the same path. Indonesia is now seen in the world not just as a rising nation, not just as the third largest democracy in the world. Brazil is the fourth, right? Indonesia is the third. Or the largest Muslim majority country in the world, which is another label given to Indonesia very frequently. I'd say Indonesia is seen as the leader of a very dynamic region. It's the lead engine. It's the motor of the Southeast Asia. In so being, it is gaining respect and reputation. In the end of the day, my friends, I'd say that the fold of countries comprising Latin America, Brazil, Africa, meaning Ethiopia, Egypt, and South Africa, the Middle East, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, plus Russia, plus China, plus Indonesia, plus India. This big fold of countries is now in a good position to resist collectively and to create alternatives where international finance, there is now the new development bank or the BRICS bank, digital means of payment. There's this talk of de-dollarization, which doesn't necessarily means not using the US dollar, but of lessening our reliance on the US dollar. Right? And I think it's fair. It's the logic of the investor. The investor in stock markets, the investor diversifies its bets, right? So we should diversify the basket of currencies. We should be allowed to have trade using the Indonesian rupee or the Brazilian real or the Chinese renminbi, whatever. It's fair. Every industry, every field of knowledge, every issue area will give us possibilities for cooperation. One of them is science, technology, and higher education. And this is where we are here today. This is where this meeting has been promoted. This is where we came all the way from Brazil to Jakarta. Because we have this mission. All of us. If we want to create a more balanced world order, one that would treat us fairly, the BRICS seems to be a good instrument. So please note, again, I don't want to sound like a victim, and I don't want to sound like a BRICS fan. I don't want to sound like, ideologically oriented. No. I think it's useful. It's a good instrument. We don't need to share our deepest values. We don't need to be homogeneous. My colleagues from Europe, from the US, keep saying, the BRICS is too heterogeneous. It can never work. If countries like, Iran, Brazil, they have nothing in common, but they don't have to. Who said they should be? No. We need just to find a common denominator. And this is not difficult. We should be allowed to be different from one another. This is nice. This is beautiful. There's beauty in this variety, in this diversity. As long as we can identify our common interests. This is where we are at the moment, I guess. This is the stage of our international collaboration. We are trying to find common agendas. Trying to find the places where our interests overlap, converge. And this is nice. So, and now to wrap, if there is an emergent power trap, and I have been claiming this for like 45 minutes now, if it's true that there is a trap, there is a set of instruments put forth by major powers to keep us away, like a trap. When a rodent, when a mouse is close to the trap, the mouse can feel the smell, but it won't approach the trap for fear that it might get punished harshly. It might get trapped. So for many years, we feared getting trapped. We were afraid. I don't see all this fear anymore. I see nations from the global south standing for their positions. I see Indonesia filing a case, or joining South Africa in filing a case against Israel at the International Criminal Court of Justice. I see Brazil resisting Donald Trump's tariff shock. I don't know if you are following the news, but Brazil was under import tariffs that were so high that they worked like an embargo. It would be impossible for Brazilians to sell their products to the US. So this was the kind of trade pressure Trump was exerting on Brazil. And we were given a choice. He promised he would waive the tariffs should we agree to change some of our policies towards the big tech enterprises, the American big tech companies. So this was the deal Trump has proposed, basically. And Brazil said, no, thanks. We don't take that deal. We stick to our own rules. We stick to our own democracy, to our own constitution. The US should not meddle with Brazil's domestic politics. This is wrong, simply wrong. So what I see in the world now, in the global south now, is this new attitude stemming from Africa, from Iran. And again, it doesn't matter if you agree with the Iranian revolution, with the Iranian cause. The fact is, there's a country, of course, this war is taking a toll on Iran. They are suffering. They're suffering lots, but they are resisting. So there's something new in the air. There's something new in international relations. We should be cognizant of it, and we should seize the opportunity. Take this opportunity to propose a new world order. There is no need for us to undergo World War III. I think we can do it. We can propose the foundations for a new world order in a discreet, peaceful way, but in an assertive way. In an assertive way. And joining efforts, connecting those like-minded peoples of the world, be they in Southeast Asia, South America, Africa, Middle East, seems to be the proper thing to do at the moment. We have a chance, an epochal, a historic chance to change the course of international relations. Yeah, I mean, I hope I have covered all the bases, as they say in the US, and hopefully you can raise questions. We can have a lively conversation after this presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Dawisson. Please give a welcome applause for Professor Dawisson for his insightful and thought-provoking presentations. Yeah, to some extent we agree that Indonesia and Brazil has the same stories and how we were under the United States policy umbrella. But okay, now I think we will now proceed to the questions and answer sessions, Prof.
Sure.
Yeah, is it okay?
It is. I'm ready.
Okay, and now maybe we can start from the on-site here. Okay, for the first sessions, I will give 3 opportunities for the questioners. Okay, now from Ibu Vivi, please.
Thank you, Prof. Dawisson, for your insightful presentation. This is a truly nostalgic moment for me. Almost 20 years ago, I first took Latin American courses in Gajah Mada University International Relations Study Program. My professor asked me why I chose Latin America. At the time, I was already studying North America, and my undergraduate thesis about the Iraq-US 2003 war policy. And I answered the question. I choose Latin America because there are many similarities, as you mentioned before, some culture and also politics. And impressively, 20 years later, now here, I meet you and discuss related these topics. And my question is, mostly 2 decades, I took the courses about the Latin American politics. We also discussed many about the emerging and middle power traps and we still face the same issue, recurring issue about these threats right now. So what makes you confident at this time it will be different, Prof. Dawisson? Thank you.
Should I take it?
Yeah, you can answer.
The deconcentration of power in the world. And it's not just me saying, it's the figures. If you take the world's GDP in the late 1940s, some 2/3 or 65% of the world's GDP was concentrated in the hands of the Western nations, North America plus Western Europe. 65%. Now, they don't reach 50%. The rest of the world does. We have definitely emerged as a bloc, and some countries in particular now enjoy a very comfortable situation. I mean, China, of course, is number one. China has grown its economy at a very fast pace. They already have, by purchasing power parity, the largest economy in the world. They can rival the US in some technological domains. They are growing their military buildup. And they belong to the BRICS group, you know. But even if you take a country like India or even Indonesia, I was checking out the numbers the other day. So some 100 years ago, Indonesia's per capita income would amount to 1% of the Netherlands. And this is a good comparison because of history, right? Today, Indonesia's per capita income amounts to 40% of the Netherlands. Wow, it's such a steep rise from 1% to 40%, 40 times more income, meaning Indonesia is rising up fast. The same applies to India as compared to the UK. Same story. Like 1%, now 50%, 35%. So Asian nations are gaining traction. This is easy to see. Brazil's economy, as compared to, Brazil in the 1950s, has also become much more powerful. Some African nations today can affect international relations in a way they would not be allowed to until recently. They have found some very important assets, for instance, critical minerals, rare earths, and they are wielding power. As they gather, they have reserves of of critical minerals. So they are now in a position to exert power. So to give you a quick and straightforward answer, the deconcentration of power in the world is measurable. It's not just me saying. You can take many different indicators and you will always find the same outcome. Power is now much more spread over the continent and the regions of the world. In addition to it, and on top of it, the BRICS grouping serves as a very convenient channel, we can channel through BRICS this coalition of powers from the global south. There is an institutional platform on the one hand, there are resources on the other hand. Putting the two things together, we have a chance. We have a chance in the world to come.
Thank you, Professor Dawisson. And now we go to the online participants, and we have raised hand from one participant, Mr. Adik Adianto. Do you hear me clearly?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Daniel.
Can you hear clearly? Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Time is yours, Mr. Adik. Please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel. Actually, there are two parts in my question. The first is, I'm quite surprised that the speaker said that it seems that BRICS lately appears as if it's just a rhetorical anachronism in today's polarized geopolitical landscape. You know that I think in my perspective that I do really agree, because you know lately we understand that it's a very flexible geopolitics where a country could pivot to several countries and several powers flexibly, like what we just see in Indonesian case. But my question is that, do you think it still holds the notion that the BRICS could evolve into a non-aligned bloc, invoking the spirit of the 1955 Bandung Conference as a viable identity project? And then, because it connects to my second question, do you think that BRICS is structurally capable of producing a coherent collective strategy on development when its member is internally divided between commodity exporters, industrial powers, and geopolitical rivals? You know that lately I read many experts noting that the entry of new members such as Iran, Ethiopia, or even Indonesia has strengthened the global influence, but simultaneously made joint decision-making significantly more difficult. Why so? Because I think, let me give a very specific example in Indonesian case. The way I see it, that the tension in joining the BRICS for Indonesia is between pragmatic gain and strategic delusion. Indonesian positions within BRICS is, I say, pragmatic, because you know that the Jakarta aims to strengthen ties within Beijing to increase bilateral trade and investment, while simultaneously viewing Brazil, India, and South Africa as competitors in international natural resource markets. If Indonesia fellows BRIC members are competitors rather than the partners in its core export sectors, the collective action problem becomes nearly intractable in precisely the domains where a development strategy will matter most. Even lately, you know that Indonesia tends to pivot to US with the latest agreement on reciprocal trade that signed by our president with Donald Trump. And this is additional part that initially the grandeur of the narrative proposed by BRICS is that it is a narrative counterpart for North and South hierarchy, where BRICS always bring the narrative about global South. But lately, we see that the condition or the atmosphere seems rather radically different, because you know that the China and India, particularly China, appears as the new emerging power in both economic and politics, on par with the US, and it behaves similar as the North Hemisphere. So how do you take on all of this? Thank you.
Okay, Pak Adik, did you catch up all the questions?
Yes, yes.
Maybe first is about the non-alignment, the member.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you very much for
Okay.
your comments. So the strategy of multi-alignment has been employed not just by Indonesia. I'd say India also masters this strategy, and to some degree other countries in the bloc. Mind you, countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE are not really interested in cutting ties with the US. No way. The very idea of de-dollarization seems very much polemical because, of course, they want to keep selling oil to the world, and international markets are still powered by the US dollar. So it is not in their best interest to take sides, nor is it for Brazil a good idea, because even if China has become Brazil's largest trading partner, number one since 2009, but when it comes to foreign direct investment, the US is in the pole position. The US is Brazil's number one investor. What do I mean? That it is complicated for countries in the periphery of international economic relations to take sides. We have to balance. This act of balancing is not the privilege of X or Y or Z. All of us, we do it. I mean, even China maintains intense relations with the US in every dimension. So this is not a problem in itself. I mean, per se, I don't see a problem in keeping diverse alignments. So some commentators insist on this point. The BRICS is too heterogeneous. The BRICS cannot find a cohesive platform. But who told you we need to? It's the opposite. We need to find venues to collaborate. We don't need to coincide in every subject. That's not the point. All of us are pragmatic. But if we can coincide in a few topics, we will become stronger if we join our forces, if we join our capabilities. So this is how I read the current scenario. There's an opportunity for us. If we want to seize this opportunity, this is a good time. It's a good time. We are in a position to bid for something more. We don't need to be rule takers forever. We should be rule makers. This is the proper timing for us to reach the next stage of international cooperation. So this is how I see the world. I mean, every BRICS member, every member of the BRICS network of countries has complex interests. We don't need to be a homogeneous bloc of nations. No way, it's not even possible. Yeah,
Yes.
it's enough.
Well, I hope that Mr. Ardik you get the point of the explanations, right? And understanding of the important role of the BRICS. Actually, if you got the point, is a fair treatment, yeah, fair treatments. How the emerging powers get a fair treatment from the established powers. Okay. Now we go to the next questions from the on-site. Okay, I want to give to Ibu Wulan. We have 10 minutes left, yeah? So please, give the direct questions to the professor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Good evening, Prof. Hello. I just want to ask how economic and trade differences affect the Indonesian and Brazil cooperation or build stronger for the global governance. That's all. Thank you.
So if I get you properly, economic cooperation between Brazil and Indonesia, how would this contribute to the world governance? Something along these lines, I guess. Well, we're speaking of two of the largest economies in the world already. This is important to take into account. We're not speaking of tiny economies. We're speaking of two units, two sovereign units, whose cooperation might affect their own regional settings, thus fueling different industries and paving the way for progress in their respective regions. So we are speaking of two leading nations in South America and Southeast Asia, whose cooperation will affect not just themselves, but the surroundings. It is important in itself. I mean, having Brazil and Indonesia collaborating in myriad of ways, not just in terms of commerce, but in terms of commerce, we are already strengthening our ties. I remember President Lula has come to Indonesia recently, Brazil's president, and there's a lot of interest over the last 10 years in Brazil. We see a surge in interest about this part of the world, Southeast Asia. Apparently, we have just realized this is a very dynamic and strong region in the world. And now I see this movement on the part of the diplomatic corps and the presidency. So what do I expect for the future? More connections. Even if geography doesn't help much because we are too far away from each other, right? So there's still a problem of connectivity, but I see now more interest on the part of Brazil, at least, to become closely connected to Indonesia. And I hope, I mean, the other way around is also true. Indonesia is also interested more and more in establishing closer relations with Brazil.
Thank you, Professor. Ibu, okay, that is the answer from Professor Dawisson. And now, I think we go to the second question on site from Ibu Sita, yeah? Okay. Ibu Sita, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bang Daniel. Hello, Professor. My name is Sita. I'm a lecturer at the Communication Department, and currently my research focus is on international communication and also public diplomacy. So talking about power is also talking about soft power. As you mentioned before, the BRICS is the emerging power that are currently happening in the global south. So is it possible for these countries that are joining BRICS to create a certain model of soft power that could dominate the world? Maybe to such an example as the Korean wave with their K-pop that already globalizing the world with their culture. So is it possible for the BRICS countries to also formulate a certain similar formula? Thank you.
Yeah, I love this question because it gives me the opportunity to tentatively draw a differentiation between established middle powers and emerging middle powers. I think we are speaking of two worlds apart. South Korea is an established middle power in the sense that it is very comfortable with the world order as it is right now. It's unequivocally different from Brazil and Indonesia. So South Korea, Japan, the Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, Canada, Australia, all these countries sit comfortably in the liberal international order. They have been net beneficiaries of the world order established after World War II. They gain from this kind of organization of the world affairs. South Korea is the byproduct of US hegemony over Northeast Asia. South Korea and Japan kind of belong to the US zone of influence in Northeast Asia, right? This is different from the model we see applied to the BRICS network of countries. Completely different. The BRICS network of countries has contestation as its motto. The BRICS network of countries goes against the current organization of world affairs. It doesn't mean we cannot cooperate with established major powers nor with established middle powers. We can, we should, we must. We must be universalistic. We must keep connections with everywhere in the world, if possible. Diversification is good as a value for the BRICS nations, for those who are trying to develop, to grow richer. But still, we are speaking of different animals. So established middle powers should not be mistaken for emerging middle powers. This presentation was on the emerging power trap. Emerging nations, they are the ones who cause disturbance. We, Indonesia, Brazil, we are in a way generating uncertainty, not South Korea. South Korea is comfortably sitting where they have been sitting for many decades. Where do I want to get? It's easier for a country like South Korea, I have the impression. It's easier to get acceptance. Because after all, and to refer to one expression by Professor Andrew Cooper from Canada, they are good citizens in the international liberal order. They don't challenge the foundations of international order. Just the other way around. They strengthen the very pillars of the international liberal order. If that is true, so they should be rewarded. So, of course, South Korea has merits in coming up with such a powerful entertainment industry, cultural industry. But make no mistake, it was easier for them to disseminate this model than it will be for the Chinese to put across their own cultural model. There will be lots of resistance. I can think of many examples of J-pop or K-pop, but it's hard to find a good example of Chinese pop culture spread across the Western world. One can say, oh, TikTok is from China. Yeah, but Americans don't even know this. Do you know that? They don't know this. It's hard for them to. So, I mean, you see, where do I want to get? If we are generating tension, we are not easily accepted. We face resistance at every societal level. Americans fear they really fear Chinese products in their supermarkets. It's not a good feeling for them. It's been described by anthropologists and social scientists in the world. This panic of coming to a supermarket in the US, and you see, all the supermarket is taken by Chinese products. So there's a lot of resistance when it comes to emerging middle powers. Of course, if you don't defy, if you don't challenge, then it's going to be easier for you to find acceptance. This is how I see.
Okay, thank you, Professor Dawisson. And now we have last questions, and this question is from the chat box, and the question is from the students, Prof. The question is, to what extent does BRICS influence rural economies? To what extent does BRICS influence rural economies?
Rural or economies?
Yeah, rural economies.
I think we should not, and it's interesting because I have been defending for more than 1 hour now the importance of the BRICS grouping, right? And now I'll tell you the opposite. One should not overestimate the weight of the BRICS grouping. I'll come back to my previous statement. The BRICS is just an instrument that should be wisely applied, that should be wisely used by our nations. But it's not an end in itself. Let me say it clearly. One should not be ideologically tied to the BRICS grouping. But it's a very useful instrument. For instance, for our business people. You see, China has a huge market. If a business person from Brazil wants to connect with China, it's easier after the creation of the BRICS grouping. There's more confidence between the two countries. I can tell you this from my own experiences and my own conversations with diplomats in Brazil. Now that Indonesia has come to the BRICS grouping, it's much easier to talk because we talk all the time. We exchange experiences. I am here, Professor Hayes is here, and we are learning from each other. That would not have happened, or would be difficult, this meeting we are having this morning, if it were not for the BRICS grouping. It's creating a good opportunity. It's creating a good excuse for us to have conversations. And I have been learning lots from you. From the time I spent, it's my second time in Indonesia, I'm learning a lot. I would be much more ignorant about Indonesia if I had not been here 2 times. I could grasp. So, to conclude, I think the BRICS is a good opportunity for each one of us, but not as an end in itself, as a means, a powerful means. We can create opportunities for our own populations, for our peoples. This is what the BRICS grouping is all about. So it's not about, alignment or no, we should be flexible. We should remain flexible. We should be complex as we always are. Our countries are complex nations. But we should not turn a blind eye to the opportunities lying ahead. There are many, plenty of opportunities that stem from the creation of the BRICS grouping and from the expansion of the BRICS grouping. So this second batch of nations featuring Indonesia is a very good news for the BRICS grouping. Very good news. It's lending the BRICS grouping vitality, dynamism. We are better off now than we were until 2024, when the second wave, the expansion of the BRICS grouping took place. Yeah, so some optimism to conclude.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of today's general lectures, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes for your insightful and thought-provoking presentations. His valuable perspectives on emerging powers, Brazil, Indonesia, and the BRICS grouping have provided us with a deeper understanding of the opportunities and challenges facing the global south in today's evolving international order. And then I would also like to thank all participants on site and online, both here, for your active engagement and thoughtful questions, which have greatly enriched our discussions. We hope that today's lectures has inspired new ideas, fosters meaningful reflections, and encouraged further dialogue and collaborations among scholars, students, and practitioners. Once again, please join me in giving a warm round of applause to Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes for sharing his expertise and insight with us today. With that, I have reached the end of my duty as a moderator. Thank you for your participation and attentions throughout these sessions. Now, I would like to hand to Ibu Sita as the Master of Ceremony. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Daniel and Professor Dawisson, for a very engaging and inspiring lecture today. We hope that all of you lecturer students and all of you that are joining online also have a very good insight from our public lecture session this morning. So now is the session for the token of appreciation. I would invite Ibu Dr. Meta to come up to the stage, to the front, to give a token of appreciation to Professor Dawisson and also to Mr. Daniel as the moderator. first one is to Professor Dawisson Belém Lopes. Okay, thank you, Professor. Thank you. And the next one is to Mr. Daniel for being a moderator for this session. Okay. Okay, thank you, Ibu Dr. Meta and Mr. Daniel. And the last one, I would like to invite Professor Fernando Reis to come to the front because we're going to give you the token of appreciation from UT for the university. Ibu Dr. Meta, please. Okay, thank you. Maybe one more group photo together. Ibu Wiwit, maybe joining the group photo. Mbak Husna and the committee, maybe let's take a group photo together. Thank you, everyone. You may come back to your seats. Okay, lecturers, students, ladies and gentlemen, and all of you who are joining us online from Zoom and also from the YouTube channel, we would like to thank you for all your participations on this public lecture, and I would also give a big thanks for Professor Dawisson and Professor Reis for coming to Universitas Terbuka. I hope you are very happy and enjoy in this very memorable event. Thank you. And with that, I would like to thank all of you and for the committee, and have a good day. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.